Hey, it's Joe Amoia, the Smarter Dating Guy, with today's Smarter Dating Tip. I've got another question for you. And today's question is, are you optimistic or you are really afraid? Let me explain what I'm talking about. Now, maybe you're currently in a relationship, the beginning of a relationship, or maybe you just got out of one, or maybe you've been out of one for a while. But if you're to take a good look in the mirror, there's a pattern to some of the things you may have been saying, such as, it'll get better. He'll change. I can live it. I can live with it. It's not that bad. But he says he loves me. Any of these phrases sound familiar? And what you're doing is you're using this optimism, these excuses, to cover up what you're really afraid of. Because if you didn't make these excuses, if you didn't use these phrases, you didn't paint a rosy picture of optimism, what would you have to do? You'd have to really admit that what you're experiencing isn't really what you want. And so as human beings, we are tremendously driven by fear. And we will do whatever we can to avoid the things that are uncomfortable or that we think will bring us pain. And so what we do is we tend to make excuses. We tend to paint stories, right? Sound familiar? Well, I was one of those individuals who did the same thing. And I still do it sometimes in certain areas of my life. It's just I catch myself a lot quicker now. But when it came to my relationship, there was one relationship in particular where I did this for almost 3 years. And I used every excuse in the book. I was absolutely miserable. But when I got real with myself and I took a good look in the mirror, I realized that the reason I was using these excuses is because I was afraid that if I didn't make these excuses, then I was never going to have what I really wanted. So I was literally willing to settle for a relationship where I was really unhappy. And in fact, I was miserable. And so after that experience, I promised myself that if I ever had to make excuses again, if I never couldn't genuinely feel happy and fulfilled with the person that I was going to be with, then I didn't want to be with that person for 1 second more. And that one major decision changed my life. And I'm fully convinced it's one of the things that helped me have such a great relationship and marriage today with my wife, Natalie. And the reason I share that with you is not to say, look at me, how lucky and how blessed I am, but to show you what's possible for you. But if you keep covering up your fears with your excuses, you keep painting rosy pictures of optimism when you know in your heart that's not how it is, then you're going to make it virtually impossible to have the type of relationship that you really desire. Now, I'm not saying you won't have a relationship, but do you simply want a relationship just for the sake of having one? Or do you really want a relationship where you could be treated in the way that you deserve and the way you desire? And I know within my heart that if you stay committed and you make those tough decisions, that there will come a day when you will have exactly what you want. May not happen tomorrow, may not happen 3 weeks, 6 months from now. But that's the really cool thing, is when you do get it, it is so worth it. And that's one of my intentions for creating this blog today, is that you realize you can and will have everything you desire, but you've got to make it happen. And if you're in a relationship, either now or in the future, where you're making excuses and you're painting a rosy picture of optimism, where you're not consistently happy and fulfilled, then it's simply time for you to move on. So I hope this helps. As always, if you know someone who's either currently in a relationship or just get out of one, and you saw that they went through this pattern, do me a favor and do them a favor. Please pass this along, because it might be the catalyst that they need to make sure that they don't repeat the same mistakes going forward the next time. As always, it's an honor, a privilege to be with you. I hope you really enjoyed this, and we'll see you next week. God bless.